In the introduction, we meet our title protagonist, Robinson Crusoe himself. He's a man with a thirst for adventure close to his heart, and he leaves home against his parents' advice, going on a number of sea adventures. At one point, he begs for repentance, hoping to make it home. But pretty quickly, he's back to sea, going on more adventures. During the rising action, Moroccan pirates take Crusoe into slavery. With a little help from some other slaves, Crusoe escapes and travels to Brazil, where he becomes a plantation owner and is pretty successful. A shipwreck strands Crusoe on an island, killing all the other crew. Crusoe lives alone on this island for 23 years. During that time, he raises livestock, he grows crops, he builds fortifications, and he documents his experiences, embracing Christianity. Crusoe rescues a captive, whom he names Friday, after the day of the week he saved him from his cannibal tribe. During the climax, Crusoe and Friday help an English captain who's been the victim of a mutiny. They fight off the mutineers, take the ships back, and strand some of the prisoners on the island. Crusoe finally is ready to return to England, and he does. And during the falling action, Crusoe learns he has made a fortune from his plantation in Brazil. We see how his Christian values have grown and changed him during his time on the island, and he gives away a great deal of his fortune. However, a thirst for adventure still remains close to his soul, and he embarks on new adventures. During the Resolution, Crusoe embarks with a small crew on a new adventure in the mountains between Spain and France, where he fights wolves and bears. And we learn that he's married, has children, and that his wife sadly passes away. Crusoe is even able to return to his beloved island to see that a new colony has sprouted up there. Robinson Crusoe ends on a cliffhanger, promising more adventures. Robinson Crusoe is a novel that reflects its author, Daniel Defoe's, interests and experiences, and it was written in the midst of ongoing English conflicts between Protestantism and Catholicism. The most direct influence is the story of Scottish sailor Alexander Selkirk. Selkirk was a shoemaker's son from the town of Fife, and he ran away when he was a young man. He fought with his father and two brothers, and left at least one alleged wife behind in Scotland. He became a privateer and spent years raiding Spanish ships on behalf of the English government. During a conflict with his captain, Selkirk demanded to be left on a nearby island. Selkirk stayed there for over 4 years. When he returned to England, his story became well known. The island Selkirk occupied is roughly 400 miles off the coast of Chile. Robinson Crusoe had a powerful, lasting literary legacy. The book's full title is The Life and Adventures of Robinson Crusoe, but it's better known by its abbreviated title, Robinson Crusoe. It was published in 1719, and it went through 9 printings in the first year alone. The success inspired Defoe to publish 2 sequels, The Further Adventures of Robinson Crusoe in 1719, and Serious Reflections of Robinson Crusoe in 1720. Neither sequel sold as well as the original, though. It is translated into more than 100 languages, and it's remained in print continuously since 1719. Robinson Crusoe is commonly regarded as one of the most influential books of all time. Since its publication, it's inspired many other literary works. Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels, Johann David Weiss's The Swiss Family Robinson, William Golding's Lord of the Flies, and plenty more. Robinson Crusoe has inspired many films and television series, including Lost, Castaway, The Martian, and Gilligan's Island. It's important to understand the contexts of colonialization and racism in Robinson Crusoe. Modern readers may be taken aback by the attitudes and language of Robinson Crusoe, who epitomizes English colonialism. Colonialism is about acquiring foreign lands and inhabiting those lands with settlers, exploiting native people. The practice began in the late 16th century and continued into the 20th century, but its effects are still felt today. Robinson Crusoe's island becomes a microcosm of the British Empire. He brings his language, system of naming, habits, and religion, and he westernizes the area. His use of terms such as savages and creatures conveys an attitude of superiority and works to dehumanize and subjugate the native people. There are a couple of key characters in Robinson Crusoe, and the first is the titular protagonist, Robinson Crusoe himself. He's an adventurous spirit, and he ignores his father's advice to stay at home and enjoy the middle station in life. Instead, he goes to sea and experiences many adventures, including a 28-year stay on a deserted island. While he is not the classic hero, he possesses many admirable qualities, including persistence, courage, and inventiveness. When his ship sinks on his first voyage, he resolves to continue pursuing his dream of a life at sea. He learns the skills to survive when he is cast ashore on a remote island, and when cannibals visit the island, he summons the courage to rescue their hostages. Despite Crusoe's admirable virtues, he possesses other, less desirable qualities. He has no qualms with being a slave trader. He rescues his friend and basically slave Friday from the cannibals, and first teaches him the word master, which is what Friday is supposed to call him. Throughout the novel, Crusoe remains a complex and contradictory character. The other key character in Robinson Crusoe is Friday, a native who is saved from cannibals by Robinson Crusoe. He becomes a willing servant, eager to learn English and do Crusoe's bidding. He stands in emotional contrast to Crusoe. Crusoe shows little emotion, never seeming to miss his parents or wanting close ties to others. Friday displays strong emotions. He jumps and cries and laughs when he finds his father. He becomes closely attached to Crusoe, volunteering to die for Crusoe whenever he bids. Friday is also intelligent and learns quickly. He is brave and willingly follows Crusoe into combat with the cannibals. Robinson Crusoe is a story of adventure, and the hero must rely upon his own wits and courage to survive. He demonstrates self-reliance in traveling, building his plantation in Brazil, and most of all, surviving on the island. Robinson Crusoe's castle is built for both comfort and defense, and he has few materials, but he manages to use what he does have in effective, creative ways. Civilization is another important theme. Rules and order govern Crusoe's life, even on the island. His concept is based on his experience with European culture and civilization, and he does not recognize that natives have civilizations of their own. He insists that Friday give up his cannibal ways, wear clothing, and learn to speak English. Crusoe never adopts any cultural habits of anyone else. The Spaniards do learn to speak the language of the natives. Crusoe does acknowledge that cannibalism is their culture. They do not see it as a sin. Progress is another important theme. Crusoe goes from survival in the wild to hunting and farming. He makes his own tools and furniture, domesticates animals, plants crops, and establishes a small colony. Christianity is another important theme. Robinson Crusoe relies on God to take care of him, but he fears punishment for his past occasions. He finds his quality of life improves as his faith in God becomes stronger. This is his motivation, and he begins to believe that God has placed him on Earth for a reason. Initially, he thinks that was because he survived multiple shipwrecks. God must therefore have some kind of purpose for him. Crusoe teaches his faith to Friday, and soon he seems like a devoted Christian. Friday asks questions that Crusoe finds difficult to answer. In teaching Friday, he becomes a more understanding Christian himself. Nature is another important theme in Robinson Crusoe, and one of the chief actors in guiding the plot. Nature blows Crusoe's ship onto the shores of the island, but also provides calm seas so Crusoe can salvage from the wrecked ship. Nature provides all that Crusoe enjoys and fears on the island, and Crusoe learns during the novel that nature can provide bounty if cultivated, or destruction if not treated with caution. Crusoe discovers that even his most diligent work cannot overcome some of the forces of nature, which he believes strongly is God's hand at work. A gun represents Crusoe's power over the island and other people. He spends his first night on the island sleeping in a tree for fear of the ravenous beasts he supposed might roam the island. Later, he discovers a footprint in the sand. He begins to live in fear, worrying that the natives will find him. After he learns beyond any doubt that the natives are cannibals, he imagines exacting justice on them by killing them with a gun. In each of these circumstances, the gun provides Crusoe with the power to survive and to control his environment. The gun is among the first items that he rescues from the ship on his first day on the island. Crusoe enjoys shocking and surprising people who have never seen a gun with its violence and its power. He even uses a gun to threaten and essentially indoctrinate Friday when he initially saves his life. And he also used a gun to do that. Tools are also important symbols in Robinson Crusoe. Tools represent progress and Crusoe's ability to shape his world on the island. After clothing himself, Crusoe's first objective was to find tools to survive. He found the carpenter's chest, which was more valuable than a shipload of gold would have been. Whether they work effectively or not, the tools he makes become a badge of his self-sufficiency on the island. Boats are important symbols in Robinson Crusoe. Ships and smaller boats are vehicles for progress. Crusoe uses them to escape to better places and from peril. They also represent freedom for Crusoe. From the onset of the story, Crusoe loved sea travel and sailing adventures. Boats symbolize freedom also from his family and from confinement and slavery, and even when he ultimately ends up on the island. Another important symbol is the calendar post. Crusoe marks his days on the island with a post that he sets up on the beach. It represents his connection to time and civilization, and this is a practice that keeps him sane and grounded as he marks off the days and years he spends on the island. From the beginning of his time there, it represents the flame of civilization itself. Crusoe refuses to let go out. Daniel Defoe, the author of Robinson Crusoe, was born in London on September 13th, 1660. As a young man, he studied to become a Presbyterian minister, but he abandoned the clergy in favor of making his fortune as a merchant. Defoe traveled widely and enjoyed some success until declaring bankruptcy in 1692. His interest in politics led him to become a political writer, but then he became a journalist and a pamphleteer. His first political pamphlet was published in 1683. Politics and religion were closely connected, and he tackled these subjects fearlessly. On more than one occasion, his writing landed him in jail. His political writings appeared in his journal, The Review, published from 1704 to 1713. The Review started as a weekly, but eventually published 3 times a week. Defoe's interests in religion, politics, and trade come together seamlessly in Robinson Crusoe. Themes appear in implicit and explicit ways. Defoe is considered the father of the English novel, and Robinson Crusoe was the first novel written in English to use the prose narrative form. The boundaries between nonfiction and fiction were blurry here, and Defoe draws on the conventions of travel literature, memoirs, and conversion narratives. Throughout Robinson Crusoe, Defoe's character moves back and forth between narration and his own journal entries. The novel earned Defoe immediate and international fame, and 2 sequels were published, but neither achieved the popularity of his first novel. Other works he published include Moll Flanders and A Journal of the Plague Year. Both were published in 1722. Defoe married Mary Tuffley in 1684, and the couple had 8 children, 2 of whom died before adulthood. Defoe himself passed away in London on April 24th, 1731. Film adaptations have been made of Robinson Crusoe, and it also inspired many different films and television series, including Lost, Castaway, The Martian, and Gilligan's Island. Though it was published 3 centuries ago, Robinson Crusoe remains a popular and beloved novel to this day. Robinson Crusoe was a blockbuster novel, the most famous and widely printed work of author Daniel Defoe. The timeless story of self-reliance and survival on a deserted island is older than America itself, and while the contexts of its time period remain dated and often problematic, Robinson Crusoe holds up as an innovative, wildly popular, critically acclaimed novel that remains influential and beloved today. Author Daniel Defoe was born in London on September 13, 1660. He studied to become a Presbyterian minister, but abandoned the clergy to be a merchant. He declared bankruptcy in 1692 and became a political writer, journalist, and pamphleteer. Defoe's interests in religion, politics, and trade all came together seamlessly in Robinson Crusoe, and Defoe is considered the father of the English novel. Robinson Crusoe was the first novel written in English to use the prose narrative form. The original desert island narrative, Robinson Crusoe, saw many film adaptations, and itself influenced many other films and television series, including Lost, Castaway, The Martian, and Gilligan's Island. Now, the story is based on the real-life adventures of Scottish sailor Alexander Selkirk, a rebellious adventurer who willingly stranded himself on an island off the coast of Chile in the early 18th century, shortly before the publication of Robinson Crusoe. The novel has a lasting literary legacy, blending a unique prose style with survival narrative, engaging, easy-to-read language, a story of personal growth and Christian values. But it's also a troubling representation of colonialism and racism, and many of Robinson Crusoe's beliefs and actions are influenced by things like cultural domination. And while he grows to care about others in relatable human ways, he also has no qualms with things like taking slaves or killing natives when he sees they're holding a white man hostage, as opposed to his originally thinking they were just brutalizing each other. Moments like these are glimpses into the contexts of the world Robinson Crusoe was written in. At the onset of the novel, narrator and titular protagonist Robinson Crusoe introduces himself and makes it clear he loves adventure at sea. Robinson Crusoe leaves home against his parents' advice, and Moroccan pirates take Crusoe into slavery. Crusoe escapes and travels to Brazil. A shipwreck strands Crusoe on an island en route to Africa, and everyone else aboard is killed. Crusoe lives alone on the island for 23 years. Crusoe rescues a native captive whom he names Friday, and they battle against cannibals who inhabit the nearby mainland. During the action-packed climax, Crusoe helps an English captain whose crew has mutinied and returns to England. Crusoe learns he has made a fortune from his plantation he started back in Brazil, and he embarks on another voyage with Friday and a small crew, this time fighting wild animals in the mountains of France, and even visiting his former beloved island home, seeing a community has sprouted up there. Robinson Crusoe ends with the promise of further adventures, setting up the 2 sequels that would follow. The novel's key symbols, a gun, tools, boats, and Crusoe's island calendar post, all speak to greater themes: self-reliance, civilization, progress, Christianity, and nature. It is the combination of innovative literary narrative and evocative symbolic lessons and virtues and contexts that have seen Robinson Crusoe withstand the test of time for far longer than the decades Crusoe himself spent on the island. The centuries of success can be attributed to a simple tale of adventure that combines many genres with excellent storytelling, and the nearly countless translations and printings of the book, as well as screen adaptations and other stories influenced by Robinson Crusoe, make this, the original English prose novel, a true great of literature. I'm Russell Jaffe for Course Hero, and here are 10 things you probably didn't know about Robinson Crusoe. Ready? Let's go! Robinson Crusoe's initial popularity came from the fact that the author was credited as Robinson Crusoe himself, and the public believed it to be a true story. Even when Defoe was revealed as the author of the fictional tale, many readers persisted in thinking the story was an account of real-life events. When the novel's first edition came out in 1719, the title page read, "The Life and Strange Surprising Adventures of Robinson Crusoe of York, mariner who lived 28 years, all alone in an uninhabited island on the coast of America, near the mouth of the great river of Orinoco, having been cast on shore by shipwreck, wherein all the men perished but himself, with an account how he was at last strangely delivered by pirates, written by himself." Not surprisingly, the full title is rarely used. Although the public eventually realized that the book was a fictional account, Robinson Crusoe was loosely based on the story of Alexander Selkirk, a privateer who raided Spanish ships for the British crown. Apparently, Selkirk demanded that his captain leave him on a large island near Chile after an argument, only to regret his temper when no other men joined him in the would-be mutiny. The island where Alexander Selkirk was thought to be marooned was renamed Robinson Crusoe Island by the Chilean government in 1966 in order to capitalize on tourism. On the island, Crusoe establishes his own rule and exerts his will over the island's natives. Joyce says that Robinson is the true prototype of the British colonist. Friday is the symbol of the subject races. The Robinson Crusoes of Warsaw were individuals, mostly Jews, who hid within the ruined city. They feared being discovered and sent to concentration camps. After the liberation in 1945, the survivors were given the nickname due to their ability to survive in such terrible conditions. Many historians consider Robinson Crusoe the first English-language text that closely parallels the modern-day novel. Literary critic Ian Watt called it the first fictional narrative in which an ordinary person's daily activities are the center of continuous literary attention. An economic model first mentioned by Karl Marx, commonly called the Robinson Crusoe economy, supposes that there is one producer, one consumer, and two goods produced. Crusoe is seen as both producer and consumer. The goods are his time and food. Trade is impossible, so all production must come from existing stockpiles on the island. The term Man Friday or Girl Friday refers to a loyal and competent employee or second in command. In the story, Friday proves himself a trusted sidekick. Friday is simply named after the weekday on which Crusoe rescues him. Defoe was a devout Puritan, a conservative ideology that was always controversial in England. His attempts to civilize Friday are also in line with Puritanism, as the Puritan settlers in the Americas attempted to convert and dominate the native civilizations they came into contact with.